Welcome back to another episode of Jailbreak Overlander. I'm Richie, and this is Jailbreak. And in this episode, I am racing towards Moab, Utah, from Prescott, Arizona. Because a friend of mine who owns Moab Motorsports, Rory Irish, you've seen him on this channel before, doing amazing things with unamazing vehicles. If you have a deuce and a half and you want to build a roll cage for it, Rory will do it. No problem. And he'll stack up the dimes. If you want to see a tow truck go down Potato Salad Hill in reverse, Rory's got you covered. If you need to race to the top of the world at night to rescue a stranded tourist, Rory's got you. But this time around, Rory sent me a picture of this and said, "You need to get out here ASAP." So I did. I raced down the highway, I got the coordinates, and I headed into the desert. Everybody's already made a Utah Monolith video, but in this video, you're going to see stuff they didn't show you, and you're going to hear stuff you did not know. So sit back, relax, and check this out. So at this juncture in time, most people are familiar with the obelisk in Utah, the Monolith, as well as the copycat monoliths that have popped up in Itasca, California, as well as Romania. The reason I'm calling the other two obelisk copycats is one of them was hastily fashioned, you can see that right away, and the other one just showed up and it's not even secured or hidden like the Utah Monolith. So I just drove all the way from Arizona up to Moab, Utah to meet up with my buddy that owns Moab Motorsports, Rory Irish. And I've got the coordinates for the Utah Monolith. So I'm currently on my way there to see what this is and see what this isn't. I've checked out every type of anomaly like this in the United States. The Great Serpent Mound, Coral Castle in Florida, the Georgia Guidestones that nobody in America seems to even be aware of what they are and what they aren't. So I'm gonna go take a look at this monolith, and fortunately it's made of metal, so Rory Irish's input is gonna be valuable because he is a fabricator. So I'm on the trail to the location of the monolith, and just spoke to a BLM employee, and he said that a couple of years ago a rancher reported to the BLM that he came across some weird metal object out in the middle of the nowhere. But other than that, the BLM had no idea, or at least that's their stance. This monolith was way out in the desert, and if you didn't know exactly where it was, you weren't going to find it. I had an exact coordinates for this monolith, and I still drove for the better part of the day to get to the location where the monolith was located. It was way off the beaten track. And as I mentioned previously, I've been to places like Elberton, Georgia, where monoliths like this, the Georgia Guidestones, have set in place undisturbed for over 35 years. which is basically a new Bill of Rights and Constitution for a new world order. Pharaohs, kings, queens, presidents have been using obelisks since recorded time. Obelisks are always made out of a very, very specific type of rock, rose granite, quartz, etc. Basically consider these things in the golden age as 5G towers, just prehistoric 5G towers, put it that way. These things have been around forever. They stand in front of Washington, D.C., they stand in front of the Vatican, they stand in Egypt, and now apparently one stands in a very, very hard to locate place in the middle of the desert in Utah. And the fact that copycats are popping up does not surprise me. This is the one in Romania. This is not the same as the one that was in Utah whatsoever at all. First of all, it wasn't concealed, and it was hastily fashioned, as you can see. No matter when an obelisk was constructed, they're always located on ley lines or points of power on Earth, without fail. After driving for several hours, I finally came to the location the coordinates showed me in the middle of the desert. It was time to go on foot. Now I'm searching on foot. I have the exact coordinates provided by someone that's already been here, as well as Google. And if you followed my channel, you know that I'm very familiar with the deserts of Moab. I've been out here a lot of times with locals, with guides, with other trucks. I've been out here a lot of times. I know my way around pretty well. And I had the exact pinpoint location. And I searched, and I searched, and I searched, to the point where I started getting concerned that I wasn't going to be able to find where I parked, because I was the only one out here. Everyone's talking about massive amounts of traffic and people destroying the desert. Well, you're seeing the desert. Anyone that came out here basically stayed in the washes, and they stayed off the bushes. A couple of dirt bikes had strayed off the paths, but dirt bikes and side-by-sides don't tend to follow the rules of the deserts or national parks, so it is what it is. I even put the drone up to try to find this exact location. And again, I had very little luck. I combed the entire area by foot and then by air. It had to be around here someplace. It had to be. I had the exact coordinates from 2 different sources. And I searched, and I searched, and I searched. The sun was getting really low in the sky, and I had a 2-hour drive out of the desert and then another hour back into town. So it was time to throw in the towel and go back and get reinforcements. And those reinforcements came in the form of this purple, custom-built Moab Motorsports Jeep that Rory Irish just bought for his 5-year-old daughter, Lily. So we gassed up and headed back in, aired down my tires, and followed Rory back into the desert all over again. This is day 2 looking for the Utah Monolith. I had to stay back a good amount of distance because even with the snorkel, which you're seeing my camera sitting on right now, the amount of dust being kicked up was unbelievable. It was so dusty out there, I ended up having to change my factory air filter once I got back into town. But for now, it was time to follow Rory to this location that eluded me the day before. We drove and drove and drove and drove through the desert, Just Rory and I. We didn't pass another vehicle. We didn't see anybody else. And even with cell phone boosters and Wi-Fi, cell phone service is almost non-existent. But when I did finally get service, I discovered that even while I was on my way to see this monolith, it had disappeared. The monolith was no longer here. And to me, that made for an even better video, because the mysterious disappearance of this monolith was almost as intriguing as the appearance of this monolith that nobody had noticed for 5 years, until the BLM was doing a census on the bighorn sheep via helicopter and noticed it. Now, whoever placed this monolith in this location definitely did not want people to see this, because even when you're at the location, you can't notice it, which is why I'm following a local into this location on day 2 to find it. Newspaper articles were popping up left and right trying to explain this, and then the additional obelisk that showed up in Romania. It's become a worldwide phenomenon, which always ends up with copycats, and that's what we have. In my opinion, the one in Itasca, California, and in Romania are both copycats, because the one in Utah was not meant to be found.
Now, a steel monolith that was recently discovered in the American desert has now disappeared as mysteriously as it appeared. The monolith was first found earlier this month by rangers in the Utah desert during a wildlife survey. No one officially knows who created the object or what it was intended for, though theories have ranged from an art installation to a prank or even extraterrestrial origins. Now the 3-meter-tall object has vanished. State officials have confirmed that the object disappeared at some point late last week, though they say they don't know who or what may have removed it.
Well, it turns out it wasn't removed by aliens or the military or anything like that. It was a local YouTuber who is known for being a trust fund baby who thinks Moab is his own personal playground. He's done other stunts, including this one, which was made to blow up his YouTube channel, but it appears, according to the comment section, it has backfired. He did this completely for publicity, removing the monolith. He is not the one that placed it there. He's also done things like cut a 50-year-old cable that helps people get up to a particular ridge, and he took it upon himself to cut this cable, saying that people needed to pay a guide to take them up to this location. He's just one of those people that have invaded Moab over the years, and it looks like this stunt has backfired in his face. But meanwhile, Rory and I still pressed on, because even with the monolith there or not, I still wanted to see the location, and I'm glad that I did. If you've never found yourself out in Moab, Utah, it is a place of natural monoliths that have stood for time immemorial. Some, like this one, have fallen due to erosion or earthquakes, etc. But it's an amazing place to find natural monoliths, nonetheless. So after many, many miles, one failed attempt, and 2 days of driving, and finally acquiescing and getting a guide, we got to the location. And we got out and walked another mile or so to the location. Right now you're looking at the obelisk, but the obelisk is basically kind of underground, and it was a long walk to get there. At 7,000 feet and 245 pounds, I was having a tough time breathing, keeping up with Rory, who's a very large man, 6'4", 300 pounds, but he still moves like a kid. Now this is the entrance to the natural amphitheater where the monolith was once located. It's incredibly narrow, and as you can see, we're about 25 to 30 feet below the surface. So you'd look right over this thing and not even realize it was there, which is what I had done the day previous. You come through this one narrow passage and it brings you into this wide open area that has slick rock floors, and it's exactly where the monolith was located, pointed directly due north, level all the way around, even after 5 years of sitting there. How do I know that? Well, a few days earlier, Rory and one of his employees, who's a full-blown Navajo Native American, were out here doing some testing on it, and they found some very interesting things. Not only after 5 years was this thing completely level on all sides, but as you can see, the actual Utah monolith was one piece folded around into a pyramid shape, and it was clean, unlike the one that we saw in Romania, and unlike the one that was just discovered yesterday in Itasca, California. This is the original real deal, and whoever put it here didn't want people seeing it. Now, I had asked Rory his exclusive opinion on who made it and for what reason, and he will share that in the video. The location that the obelisk was placed was very strategic. It pointed perfectly due north. It pointed directly at a natural waterfall, and even after sitting for 5 years, it was completely dead nuts level all the way around. It's an amazing feat if you think about it, and this thing sat for 5 years and no one saw it. It's a literal natural amphitheater, concrete floor and all, stone floor and all. It was only set down that deep.
They didn't, yeah.
And it stood this, well, it was protected in a bowl, right?
Right. But they concrete cut it right here. Cut it like that and set the panels in. But I figured it would have like poles.
Right.
Down in there that they drilled into the rock or something.
Yeah,
but
well, that
no.
makes...
All they did was epoxy it. So, dude, if it's that temporary, maybe a movie prop.
But another one just showed up.
Yeah, but
You see?
copycats,
No,
copycats rule the world.
I thought of that yesterday too. I'm like, somebody else is going to put up a Fugazi one someplace else.
Yeah, but I mean, when you see the popularity of it, look at how many wreckers are in Moab now.
Right. No, I'm hip. I saw that happen. I saw that.
So,
evolve
I
on
mean,
its own.
come on. But the weird, like you said, the weird thing is all the water comes off of right here. And we get some ragers out here that'll bring water, rocks, big shit. Come right down here, so then it's set to split the water. One of the faces isn't pointing where the water
That is crazy.
And it's exactly north.
So they know geology.
Yeah.
Well, they understand whatever this is called.
But like I said, I've got that video of Sean putting his level on it, and this fucker was exactly level, and it was riveted with stainless steel rivets, made out of stainless steel with aluminum. So it was built to last because anything steel would have rotted out quickly.
Right. Right. Ian, I mean, you're a professional fabricator, and I've met a lot of fabricators, and you know, I know you won't say it, but you're one of the more high-end fabricators. How well was this thing built?
It's not that it was, I mean, you couldn't see the structure inside of it. There was 2 rivets popped off on the top where somebody had been prying at it. So you could kind of look in and you could see that there was a structure built inside that then the plates were stuck to. But 1/8" stainless steel is heavy.
Right.
So somebody packed those panels in and then built it here. Nobody knows why it's here. Nobody knows where it came from. And everybody, my thought is, and all is my opinion, everybody's too scared to fess up because what kind of fines are they going to hit?
Right.
Because the BLM's talking trespassing and vandalism because they cut the rock.
Yep.
Then they littered, they left it here because, like it or not, it's trash.
Now on the other side of that coin, the guys that just put the one up on the other side of the world, they're in even more trouble if they...
It's an archaeological
archaeological, and then a landmark, and then 7 wonders of the world. That's jail over there.
Yeah, but like this is jail time. Well, I mean, they could have got out of it if they would have been like, hey, look, we made a movie prop, we forgot it. You know, it was an overlook. You know, we're sorry. They'd probably get a little fine. Cool. But I think everybody's so scared. But like I said, there was that couple years ago where that chick was going around all the national parks painting.
Right. Yeah.
With acrylic paint.
Yeah.
And there was people defending her, going, "Oh, it's art." Do you need to make this place more beautiful?
Well, I'm so glad you repeated that because you said that to me the other day. And
yeah,
honestly, this is amazing. If you've never been in Moab, you're missing out because it's amazing. It's dirty, it's dusty, it ain't easy, but wow. You'll see things you won't see anywhere else on earth. So not only was this thing perfectly plumb and level after 5 years of sitting, it was also pointed perfectly due north, and for whatever reason, I could not launch my drone there at all. And I had just flown the drone 20 minutes previous. It just would not take off. So there was some sort of a magnetic anomaly, perhaps a vortex. It's tough to tell. Chances are this monolith was placed directly on a ley line, L-E-Y line. Look those up. Saying the drone won't fly in here. I just flew it 20 minutes ago, but it does not want to fly. It won't take off. So there's that. So after we got back to the spot where we parked the Land Cruiser and the Jeep, we launched the drone again, knowing exactly where this was located, and still had a very difficult time finding it. And notice the drone launched no problem this time, even off the hood of a truck, which should mess up its internal compass. And it didn't. But something about being right next to the location of the monolith would not allow the drone to fly. That's something to take into consideration. The drone has internal compasses, magnets, sonar, infrared, etc., etc. This is an overhead view of where the monolith was located. You can see the wet spot on the ground from the waterfall, as well as the location with the rocks right around it. And this is the surrounding area. This monolith was not placed to be found. And people thinking this was a remnant of Westworld, first of all, there's no other cuts in the ground from Westworld. Second of all, Westworld would have simply used CGI to make these monoliths. It's easy enough. And third of all, Westworld had permits. When this whole thing first popped up, they would have claimed responsibility, and it would have been nothing more than a simple oversight. But none of that happened. This obelisk and many others are meant to mark a location in time. The copycat monoliths that are popping up, I think the monoliths, if there are any more, will be equally as hidden as this one was in this vast landscape way off the beaten track. And I think it's much more significant than people understand. And that's my opinion on it. Couple things. This is a natural amphitheater. Rory Irish already pointed that out, but it's almost 100% enclosed by rock. There's an opening right there. And there's a waterfall that Rory, all 300 pounds of him, just squoze up that, seeing if anybody threw it up there, but it's gone. Totally gone. But this would be a perfect spot to do all sorts of wacky things. And yes, Westworld did film out here, but I mean, if they forgot a film set, a prop or whatever, Utah's not going to find them. They're not going to get in trouble for that. Notice my voice from standing right here to standing right here. Yeah. And while Rory climbed up the waterfall, which was a good 35 feet, looking for the capstone to the obelisk, which had been left behind, he figured somebody had tossed it up top. I was noticing that when you stand right where the obelisk was mounted, your voice boomed and echoed. If you stepped just 2 feet to the side in either direction, your voice was completely flat with no echo whatsoever at all. So whomever placed this obelisk, they had a lot of education going for them. Geological, rain flow, which direction it was pointed in, and structural design. Because this thing was only 2 inches into the ground, yet a 300-pound man and many people stood directly on top of it with no ill effects. It didn't tip over. It appears to be simply fastened in place with epoxy. There's a lot of strange things going on Earth that most people are totally unaware of. But nobody can deny that the year 2020 has been very, very strange, and for some reason I believe this obelisk plays into it big time. The copycats, they don't do anything for me. Those were meant to be found. The Utah obelisk was not meant to be found whatsoever at all. At any rate, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I will return the favor. I am out.